You're listening to episode 59 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Erin Knight.
A lot of migraine people are kind of like driven and high achievers, if you will. So I had been putting in a lot of overtime, a lot of travel, and just wearing out my body. Also, all the medications I was taking for painkillers and stuff like that started to wear on me, I think. And I ended up with like really massive fatigue and chronic pain, chronic GI issues, and to the point where I could no longer accept that doctors were telling me there's nothing really wrong with me.
Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hen, and welcome to the Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we dive into what makes an awesome lifestyle. From relationships to money mindset, nutrition to fitness, emotional health to peak performance, we bring you on an amazing journey to unleashing your human potential. Okay, everyone, here's a little bit about our guest today, Erin Knight. She is the founder of Engineering Radiance. She believes that no one should miss out on life because of migraine headaches. Erin has her master's in Pharmaceutical Engineering from the University of Michigan and advanced training in functional nutrition and, get this people, nutrigenomics. She suffered from debilitating migraines for over a decade before uncovering the underlying biochemical causes and went on to reverse engineering what worked to help herself. This led to the development of her Migraine Freedom plan, which is now a blueprint for thousands of people looking for root cause solutions to their migraine plan. So everybody, here's Erin Knight. Well, welcome to Lifestyle Locker, Erin Knight. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
So everybody has a story. Everybody has something that has led them to where they are today. And you have a really interesting, really neat background. Your education is also pretty wild. This, looking at this from chemistry to biochemical to chemical engineering to functional diagnostic nutrition, which I want to talk to you about after anyway, to having this really cool company that helps people with migraines. So can you bring us on that journey? Like what made you start somewhere and kind of like zigzag to where you are today?
It is definitely a little unconventional, but if I look back, the thread or the essence of what I do today was always really been there. And if you ask anybody in my family what I was like as a little girl, they're going to tell you that I was always driven to want to help people. There's these cute little pictures of me as a kid, like running up to people with my little Fisher-Price stethoscope, trying to give them a checkup and making sure, trying to take care of people and stuff like that. So I think I was just kind of drawn to that from the beginning. And my first exposure to migraines was really with my mom. So she suffered with debilitating migraines. And I remember as a girl, we went on this fantastic family vacation to Spain, but she was stuck in the hotel room for the first 3 days, just violently ill and missing out on all of the cool architecture and things we were doing. And as this girl who wanted to help everybody, I felt especially bad that there was nothing I could do to make her feel better. And, something else I was really inspired by was my grandfather, who was a compounding pharmacist back when that was a thing. And this isn't nerdy at all, but I remember like as a teenager, just sprawling out on their living room floor, like engrossed in his toxicology textbooks, his pharmacology textbooks, just amazed at the power of chemistry to influence our bodies and to help us feel better and stuff like that. So that really left an impression. But even with that and watching my mom all those years suffer, I kind of formed this impression that if I were to ever have migraines myself, which I did, there was nothing really you could do to cure them per se. It was just something you had to manage. You had to miss out on things, step back from life and maybe take some medications to feel better. That's, what I had, as an idea of how life was with migraines. It's just how it was. And then, fast forward a little bit later on, I decided to pursue engineering because of my dad, who was really into lean manufacturing, a real expert in the field, which is all about optimizing the way you do things. So how can you do things more efficiently and better? And kind of taking that. And then my grandpa, I decided to do pharmaceutical engineering because that was the way I felt called to really help the most people. I thought that I could really have an impact and be able to help people that way, which, learned that wasn't all it cracked up to be, but it was an interesting path anyway. And I learned a lot from doing that. And all those years, like in university and early on in my career, I started having debilitating migraines myself. And what was most frustrating to me is that they would come at the most inconvenient times. And maybe if somebody's listening and has migraines, they can relate to this, but they would come when I had a big presentation to give, when I had to go to conferences and, present training to other teams and stuff like that. When the stress was high, that was when the migraines would come. And it was just so frustrating to have to step out, kind of almost living life on the sidelines. I felt like I missed out on a lot of social things, not really being fully present with people, because when you're in pain, you might be able to show up in a body to a party or something like that, but you can't communicate with people and connect with people if you're in physical pain. So that was kind of always going on. But again, back to that mindset of you take medication, you maybe shut yourself off in a dark room for a little while, and then life goes on. There wasn't ever connecting the dots that there was something that could be done.
Yeah,
about
it's kind
that.
of just masking the problem, right?
Yeah,
you
unfortunately.
kind of survive.
And that went on for a while until, I hit the ripe old age of 27 and had this massive burnout. I know.
Yeah, and that's young, right? I mean, think about it.
A lot of migraine people are kind of driven and high achievers, if you will. So I had been putting in a lot of overtime, a lot of travel, and just wearing out my body. Also, all the medications I was taking for painkillers and stuff like that started to wear on me, I think. And I ended up with really massive fatigue and chronic pain, chronic GI issues, and to the point where I could no longer accept that doctors were telling me there's nothing really wrong with me, and I was going to have to live the rest of my life like that. That just seemed insane, especially at 27. I was like, that's not right.
Yeah, especially when you have the potential to live to 100 or more now, right?
Yeah. I was like, this isn't going to work for me. So, and also at some level, I'm like, engineers are problem solvers. I should be able to figure this out, So once I committed to that and really started to investigate, I learned about functional medicine, functional nutrition, and it really clicked with me because it's all about finding the root causes for your health condition. So I sought out a functional medicine specialist, started to kind of peel back the layers, running different labs, and uncovered a lot of root causes that had been there for years. Like most people with chronic issues, there's gut issues, hormone issues, toxic burden, et cetera, all that was there. And as I worked on that, my energy came back, the gut issues went away, and almost like magic, the migraines went away too. I wasn't sensitive to the things that had triggered them anymore. So bright lights, jet lag, missing a meal, those things that had been guaranteed to trigger a migraine in the past were, just didn't bother me anymore. I just didn't get them. Wasn't somebody who had migraines anymore, which was mind blowing. Awesome. Yeah. But also hello, why didn't anyone tell me this was possible? I would have done this a lot earlier if I had known. So I feel like now it's my mission just to spread the word that it is possible, especially with migraines, because I'm passionate about that. But I think with anything that it is possible to dig down, get to the root of whatever is causing something, and then, live, with the freedom to do whatever you are called to do. And then also, really fully participate in life and not feel like you're always on the sidelines, kind of half there, half not there. So it's really important to me to just share that message of hope and kind of reverse engineer the key things that had worked for me. And that's how I came up with the 4-step Migraine Freedom process, which is what I teach and how I help people today.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat. I kind of find it was very, the universe was lined up for you, that you did your master thesis on problem solving and root cause analysis processes. I'm like, how cool is this?
It's cool. And then it's kind of crazy. All those years, I didn't put that to my own health until I really, really had to. And then once I did, I was like, okay, that's the answer.
Right? It's like that cause and the effect there's always something. And I'm glad you mentioned that, that you had a very different background in studying, from the pharmaceutical engineering, which, and I don't want to use chemistry as necessarily a bad word, but when we throwing chemicals that are just kind of all synthetic all the time into the body, how good can it be to doing something that you're certified in functional diagnostic nutrition?
Yeah. It's almost a joke now, but nobody gets headaches because they have an Advil deficiency. Right?
Yeah, I tell my patients the same thing. I'm like, that's not the cause of your headaches. But I did hear something, or read this is years back, and I don't know how true or not true it is, but I heard that it may have been Tylenol, it may have been Advil, but your body kind of craving the chemical toxicity is one of the leading causes of headaches once you've been using it for long enough that once you start to slow down, you'll start to automatically get headaches, and you kind of keeps that process going. I don't know how true
Yeah.
that is, though.
No, it's really true. It's called rebound headaches, and there's warnings even on like the prescription migraine medicines. We know it's true with NSAIDs like Advil and stuff like that you mentioned, and then caffeine. People might be familiar with like withdrawal headaches from caffeine and stuff like that. It's kind of similar. If you're using it at a certain level, depending on which of those that is, if you're using it at that frequency, then you start to be prone to rebound headaches, and that's where a lot of people start to seek help. Is they'll have spoken with their pharmacist, and the pharmacist, you're taking this 6 or 7 times every month or more, and you really need to be using it just in the worst case scenario. So they need other options. That's when they start looking for like holistic natural options. Sometimes is when, I'm thankful that we have Imitrex and these medications that can really help, but you can only use them so many times before you became, dependent on them in a way. So we do need, even with those, great things, we need other ways to soothe our bodies and then eventually stop needing them.
Yeah. So then I see the thing that your certification in functional diagnostic nutrition. Can you kind of explain or give us a little bit of detail on what's different between maybe getting a nutrition degree versus, learning about functional diagnostic nutrition?
The key difference, and it fit in so well with engineering. That's kind of why I went after that, and I'm kind of excited by this realm. Is functional diagnostic nutrition program teaches us how to help people access functional labs. Like we look at hormones, sex hormones, and stress hormones. We look for gut pathogens, parasites, bacterial overgrowth, and things like that, and how people become educated on how to deal with that. So really teaching people self-care, but in that framework of like test, don't guess, how to get access to those things that, is a growing market of labs that are available to consumers now, and how to get those, and then not just get the results, but like what to do next. So
being objective with life versus just going, I think this is working.
And nutrition, of course, is a piece of that, but sometimes we need more, and we look at, the foods you eat, resting, stress reduction, including stress in the body, whether that's sending somebody out to a chiropractor to get the biomechanical stress worked out, or maybe they need to go see a counselor or some kind of life coach or something to work on those mental emotional stress, or what we can really help with as a biochemical stress, and looking for those, food sensitivities and underlying issues that are causing this constant stress on the body. And that's how, coming back to headaches and migraines, like when those stresses build up, those 3 different kinds of stress, when that overflows the limit that somebody has, that's when they'll get a headache or migraine. And we want to lower that day-to-day effect of, especially like the mechanical or biochemical stress in the body, just so then you are free to move around the world and have more resilience to the things we can't necessarily control, like maybe getting stuck in traffic or missing, some sleep because your kids woke you up in the middle of the night. Like those kinds of things happen. We want to be resilient to that. But the only way that I found to do that is to work on those underlying stress and give yourself more resilience.
Exactly. Get stronger in the good areas so the bad hurts you less. I agree. So I don't want to sound silly here asking this question, but I know I see a lot of patients that say, I have migraines, and I ask them to describe it, and it's like, it hurts just right here. I think a lot of people are just using that word as a generic word. In general, and then there are obviously the people that have like the full-blown migraine attack. Can you kind of just give us an idea of like what are like the common symptoms of a real migraine versus I have a headache?
Okay, well, I like to have people listen to their bodies, even if it's quote just a headache, because I think they're still body's trying to tell you something. I still like, and a lot of these things will help people regardless. But when somebody, like if you're let's say your neighbor tells you she's got really severe migraines and you want to know what she's going through, like she may be having pain on one side of the head, feeling nauseous, like blinding pain, and like really sensitive to light and sound and smells when it's active, especially. And people will, not be able to eat. And it's kind of like can last 3 days even for some people of the pain. And then there's a recovery phase that could last even the next week, where they just feel like you're recovering from the flu because you might have not eaten much, or you might have thrown up. So your body has to recover. So a real severe migraine could last, or kind of ruin somebody's whole week.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because a lot of people, I'm sure, listening I think everybody's at least had a headache in their life. But I think some of the terminology that just gets kind of whipped around the society is like, oh, I have the migraine. I go, well, I mean, you drank a little bit last night. I wouldn't call this a migraine. This is going to be a hangover, right? Type of thing. But I think it's just important to understand that, whether you're the person that has, I mean, I don't want to say a hangover. You need to obviously hydrate and rest and so on and so forth. But with a migraine and other traditional headaches, I mean, there are solutions like you're offering that can actually help the root cause of it. Mm-hmm. And, so we become more, like you said, resilient, which I think is very, very, I mean, it's so important, because we just, like yourself, I mean, I love and I said this to almost the last half a dozen people I spoke to on the podcast. I love the stories of going from, a crisis to creating this amazing product, mindset, where you're actually able to now help people because you went through this dark time and you found the light.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I don't regret anything that's happened, or, whatever I went through as a learning experience. Every health challenge has been an opportunity to learn how to overcome it. So yeah. That's,
I mean, everybody listening, listen, if you have been in this situation, there is light at the end of this tunnel. And I mean, while you're alive, there's light at the end of this tunnel, right? So what else can we talk about? So you have something really interesting called, your company. I mean, talk about your company, your Engineering Radiance. And now I know your engineer background. Explain the Radiance, because I think you probably do a little bit more than help people with headaches, is my guess.
Yeah, I think headaches are kind of like the wake up call of okay, I should listen to my body and get help. But to really get to the bottom of that, we have to look at all these different factors. And I think in the process of it, the ultimate goal or outcome is that somebody's energetic, that they're, present with the people around them, that they're thriving in their career, whatever else they decide to do. So that's where radiance comes from. To me, it's like more, first get rid of the pain, but then what else do you want for your life?
I love the logo with your tagline. It says Migraine Freedom. That says Dream, Dive, Heal, Thrive. Mm-hmm. So what is the dive?
So the dive is really where the functional nutrition comes into play, and looking for the root causes. So we're diving into the data, looking. Sometimes it's really motivating for people to see on paper that they've got a food sensitivity, for example. Like they might hear people talk all day long about how the gluten-free diets help them or blah, blah, blah. But it's not until, even for me, it wasn't very motivated to actually go through with that, lifestyle change until I saw on paper, okay, my body doesn't like that. It's reacting. And then I made the change. So that's, for those kind of people that are like to see stuff on paper or data driven.
Yeah, no, I think
can be really helpful.
But I think the people that have that make that have data, that have information, and will make the best changes, because they can see, feel, hear all of the outcomes. I mean, it's living and breathing. I do the same in my practice when we do pre and post x-rays with patients. Half the people, their eyes go like, holy crap, I can't believe that was me 3 months ago, type of thing. So,
yeah.
And I know it's the same.
And I bet you can see them even when walking. You probably can see now when they're walking, you can kind of see what's wrong or what's going on, but they might not need to realize that they need care until they see.
Yeah. Well, that's my blessing and my curse at the same time as a chiropractor, and being brought up in this profession since I'm born. Every time I look at a person, I have the posture, I have all of these different things, but I imagine you see the same thing. I mean, you could probably see someone looking at eating a plate of food at a restaurant. You're like, well, they're going down a dark road right now. Type of thing. So you also have, this is interesting, you have this thing called the Migraine Rescue Toolbox, right? Mm-hmm. Which we're actually going to be giving away as a gift to everybody that's listening. But can you kind of give us an idea of what that is, what's inside? Don't give everything away. I want to kind of like the what do they call it? The Cliff Notes version of it.
Sure, absolutely. So I realized even for myself, it's just human nature. If you're not feeling very well, all your good intentions and stuff like that kind of go out the window. Last time maybe you were sick or something like that. What did you do? I just kind of laid on the couch and I was like, oh no, I'm sick, blah, blah, blah. But then even, somebody like me, like there's good habits like drinking water or, making yourself a bowl of soup and stuff like that. But we forget to do that unless it's like right in front of us. So what I like to have people do now is to make themselves a personalized checklist. So like taking a pad and writing out like, here's the 5 things I'm going to do next time I don't feel well. Do that when you feel good.
Yeah.
Right? Pre-think. This is an engineering thing too. Like write yourself a instruction manual for when you don't feel good, because then you take all of that thought and laziness out of it. So what the toolbox is some ideas of what you can put on that list, especially if you're prone to headaches and migraines. So ways to like really soothe the nervous system, some essential oils you can use, or music tracks you can listen to and things like that. Because what's happening, as the stress builds up in your body and is starting to trigger that migraine, you might notice some early warning signs, and that's the best time to get out this list and start going in rescue mode. Like, I'm going to soothe my nervous system, do everything I can, everything on my list. And oftentimes you can turn like that train around right there. Once it gets going, once it kind of sets off on the full migraine process, it's pretty hard to stop with these natural methods. But if you catch it early and start to implement these things that you've made on your self-to-do list, then, people will say, yep, didn't have to take my medication, or yep, I, was down for like an hour or so, kind of resting and recouping, but then I was fine. I didn't actually get the migraine, even though I felt it was coming on. So that's the power of making a checklist for yourself. And the toolbox is just to spark some ideas of like things that have been really effective for our clients and for, me too, as I feel stress coming on.
That's great. Well, here's another question, or actually a statement I want you to answer. We spoke on the pre-call, and I don't think we mentioned it on the call, but you said that 75% of people that have these migraine headaches are women.
Oh yeah.
It's a huge. Is there a reason?
Well, there's a couple of thoughts why that could be. One, hormones are often a big factor in triggering migraines. Women will find that they come cyclically, either right around their period or kind of around ovulation because of the changes in hormones. So I think that's a really big factor. And another big factor in chronic diseases like autoimmune disease, and migraines are now thought to be autoimmune as well, is childhood trauma. Okay. Which also has affected women typically in a higher proportion. So it's another, potential explanation for why it's so heavy on that side.
And when you mentioned hormones, I know we also spoke about this. I mean, the toxic load of the stuff that's in, I would call it garbage foods, like from hormones and antibiotics and all of these different things. Do those also, you think, play a factor, for people?
Yeah, men and women were like something I learned when I did the summit, or hosted a migraine summit last year from, I think it was Dr. Tom O'Brien. He was talking about the coffee cups we get when we go out for coffee. They have these lids on the top. And even if we were switched over to BPA bottles and free bottles and things like that, there's still a coating that has BPA on those lids. So we drink the hot tea or coffee, the steam touches the lid, it drops back into the drink, and we're exposing ourselves to simple things like that. Like I was still doing that at the time. So those kinds of things will, cause your body to have to work harder to process all those toxins. And then it also kind of backs up its natural ability to process out excess estrogen. So you kind of clog up the works because your body's so busy trying to process out things like that instead of, what it was built for, which was just clearing out the normal byproducts of metabolism or hormone production and things like that.
That's so neat. I'm glad you said that because, I've been traveling a lot, and I do like coffee. I do like tea, and I may have to start traveling with my own mug.
Yes, we have to get our own mug.
God. I do my best to, wherever I get coffee, to make sure it's in a paper cup. But now the lid. Now you got me thinking again. I appreciate that. Oh wow. So let's get to this point. I like to usually ask and you've given a lot of really data-driven information here for our people, which I think is absolutely fantastic. A ton of value. If you could give 3, what I call golden nuggets, or 3 things that someone could say that has migraines or a headache, male or female, what can you do tomorrow? Like 3 simple things, either eliminate or add or do in their life that will make them a little bit better.
So for sure to actually sit down, like as you're listening to this or whenever you get to your destination or stop working out or whatever you're doing while you're listening to this, like actually make yourself that list, because you'll thank yourself next time you have a migraine or the flu or anything like that. If you have your go-to list of stuff you're actually going to take care of yourself with. So make that happen. And then I think just starting to see migraines or any symptoms as a messenger, and realizing you don't have to live with that forever, because a lot of people I noticed as soon as it's over, they kind of block it and move on with their life and forget about it until the next time it happens. That might be a month, that might be 2 months, that might be next week, but they just don't really want to think about it. But let's listen to like what the body's trying to tell us before it gets worse. Like if I had listened, I wish I had listened when it was just migraines instead of all these other things that came afterwards.
Okay, great.
So I share that. And then test, don't guess. So like start to learn about the functional labs that you can have access to. And if you have kind of an idea of like, well, it seems to be very food related. So learn about food sensitivity testing, or, if you know that your migraines are cyclical and happen every time your cycle comes, then, there's things that you can do to balance your hormones, or even test and figure out where your hormones are being metabolized and things like that. So start to get educated on your options for that.
Wow. Straight from an engineer. Love it. I love it. Well, I can say this again and again, being very objective and what is it? Quantitative or qualitative? What am I thinking of here? Or both, right?
Both.
With your health, will change your life. I mean, people do it with their money, right?
Sure.
Why wouldn't we do it with ourselves?
Why wouldn't you do it with self? I know I see people that are really successful in business or in corporate life and things like that, because they have the ability to set goals, hold themselves accountable and things like that. But then why don't we just take that into our personal life and do that with our health? Yeah,
not just for the company you're working for yourself, right?
Do it for yourself.
And you're going to be able to connect with Erin Knight on lifestylelocker.com/Erin Knight and have all of her details, be able to connect with her. I'll even put her address and her phone. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that. So people can find. I'm just kidding. All her social links, her website. It's filled with great information. So definitely, if you have headaches, please connect. If you don't, and you don't want them, you might want to connect also, because it'd be great to learn the positive things you can do, which will help prevent and be proactive, so you can actually thrive in life, not just survive. So I'd like to thank you so much, Erin. This is a really great conversation, and I think our listeners are going to get some serious knowledge bombs from this, and hopefully they can take some serious action, because headaches are not something to laugh about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure, and I hope everybody got something positive and action-oriented from this.
Awesome. Everybody, so let's give Erin Knight an applause on that. Come on. She's helping all of us engineer our health from the inside out, helping you specifically with migraines. She has given everybody that's listening a gift. Go to lifestylelocker.com/Erin Knight, and you can download for free the Migraine Rescue Toolbox. If you want to get that again, lifestylelocker.com/Erin Knight. It will be there in the show notes. It'll be there as well. So make sure you connect with her in all areas of social media, and make sure, you hit that subscribe button on iTunes for us. Go ahead and give us a 5-star review. That would be pretty amazing as well. And we look forward to hearing more success stories from all those listening and participating with Lifestyle Locker. This is Dr. Josh. Peace out, people. Bye-bye.